Hello, I'm Nari McDiarmid from Mining Journal, and today I'm speaking with the CEO of Kingwest Resources, Ed Turner. Ed, thanks for joining me today. And firstly, can you please explain what sets Kingwest apart from other Western Australian focused gold explorers?
Yeah, good question, Nari. We're quite a young company, so we've only acquired these gold projects in late 2019. Since then, we've improved our JORC resources from 170,000 ounces up to 446,000 ounces. So we've done a lot of drilling to do that, and we've done it in quite a short space of time, but we haven't been fully recognised in our share price. So if you look at enterprise value per resource ounce, we're only at about $30 an ounce compared to the peer average in Western Australia for explorers and developers, or explorers and gold developers at about $90 per resource ounce. So we are very undervalued there, and so there's a lot of upside basically for investors now and in the future.
Well, if we look at the first of your two projects, the Menzies Gold Project, and you've just released a pretty positive scoping study on that, looking at a 31-month open pit operation. What for you are the key highlights of that study?
The important things really, the scoping study was just focused on the near surface open pittable resources, which could be transported to a toll treatment facility. We're fortunately located on the Goldfields Highway north of Kalgoorlie, only 130 kilometres north of Kalgoorlie. So there are multiple processing facilities or mills within trucking distance. So we don't need a critical mass to build our own mill before we can go into production. So the economics of the study were just focused on that. In the future, we can look at standalone treatment facility on site, but in the short term, we've already shown that we can make around $80 million profit in less than 3 years in production, and that's only with a $2 million capital expenditure. So there's very low risk to get the rewards basically, and that is just scratching the surface. We will continue to grow those resources at depth and prove up underground resources in the future, and that's what we're focusing on now. But basically, it's a very good return for a very small investment over a short period of time. And because we're already in granted mining leases, we can actually go through the whole permitting process in less than 12 months and potentially be in production in 12 months if we decided to pull the trigger, basically.
Well, Ed, you just mentioned that that's, basically the starting point and you've got more drilling planned. You've just announced a $3 million raising. So with some funds in hand, what are your plans at Menzies in the coming months?
Yeah, firstly, I should point out, we've actually done another 7,000 metres of drilling. That was not included in those resource estimates we released in March and consequently the scoping study. So we've already done additional drilling, infill drilling and extensional drilling to increase those resources. With that $3 million we just raised, we're in the process of drilling another 4,500 metres of RC extensional drilling at Menzies, and we're already 3/4 of the way through that. So in the last few weeks, we've already drilled another 3,000 metres. So we're looking for deeper extensions to those resources and then specifically targeting the high-grade extensions to those resources. Some of the drilling we've already done the last few weeks will potentially grow the open pittable resources, and then the rest will be looking at proving up underground resources. So that's all in process right now. The results will start to come in the next few weeks, and by the time diggers and dealers comes around, we should have all of those results and then be in a position to either update the resources again or just to then prove where the best locations are to continue to follow those resources at depth with future drilling. We do know that the mineralisation does have deep roots at Menzies. One of the historic mines, the Princess May shoot at the Undaga, for example, went down to 600 vertical metres. So we know these high-grade shoots do have depth potential. We just have to go through the steps to basically incrementally continue to prove that.
Well, if we look at your other project now, Ed, Gungahd, which is about 40 kilometres away, and that's also seen some historical mining activity, but you made an interesting discovery earlier this year with about 6 metres at, where are we, 17.2 grams per tonne gold. I mean, that's a pretty exciting beginning. What are your plans at Gungahd for the coming months?
Yeah, well, as soon as we finish drilling at Menzies, in about a week's time, we'll take the RC rig down to Gungahd and follow up that intersection. That 6 metres of 17 grams per tonne was within 38 metres at 3.1 grams per tonne to the bottom of the hole in an air core hole. So that was just in the regolith, which means they just drilled until the drilling got too hard. So when they hit the fresh rock, they stopped with the air core drilling. So that finished in mineralisation. So it's a very exciting intersection. So we've got RC drilling planned to drill above that, below that, along strike to the north, along strike to the south. And then we've also got some holes planned about 200 metres along strike to the south as well, because we do know where that contact is, which hosts the mineralisation. And we've already tracked that with air core drilling over about a kilometre strike length. So once again, we'll do the RC drilling, see what the results are, get a very good handle on the exact orientation of the primary mineralised veins there, and then we'll just progressively step out and follow that mineralised trend basically along strike, because we know it's a very prospective trend and goes all the way down through Aphrodite in Bardock Gold's holdings to the south, and potentially multi-million ounce deposits can be found on that trend.
Do you think its potential has been overlooked in the past, Ed, because of the salt lake factor there?
Yeah, absolutely. There is some historic production at Gungahd within our tenement holdings, but that's all on the dry land, right next to the highway. If you're driving up there, you can see the old open pits and small underground mining there. But more than 80% of our tenement holdings, which is all in prospective ground, it's not granites and things like that, it's all in prospective ground. 80% of it's under those salt lakes. And a lot of it's just shallow salt lakes, but there's also other transported overburden outside the salt lakes as well, which masks the gold, so the old timers couldn't basically find the gold at surface. So we've also got some very exciting targets in the northern part, particularly of Gungahd, which we plan to drill with a track-mounted air core rig as soon as possible. We're waiting for that rig. Basically, there's not too many of them around. They have to be customised to drive on the lake, and consequently, there aren't too many of them around. But yeah, we've got some great targets we want to drill after the RC drilling, so probably in about a month's time or 6 weeks' time.
Well, you've mentioned a lot of drilling activity, Ed. So what can investors expect to see by year end?
Well, we should have a lot more good drilling results at Menzies and Gungahd, and whether or not we go straight into updating those resources is a subject for debate. I expect that after this round of drilling, we'll just plan, review all the data, plan follow-up drilling, and just continue to increase the footprint of the mineralisation at depth at Menzies in particular, and follow those high grade shoots. And then at Gungahd, prove where the primary mineralisation is in the southern area where the RC drilling is going, and hopefully we'll have some very good discoveries in the northern part of the Gungahd project under the lake. So just continue to grow those resources basically.
All right. Well, Ed, thank you very much for your time today.
It's a pleasure.